Brunch has to be one of my favorite meals, although I feel brunch dishes can really be eaten any time of day. This one, Shakshuka, is a particular favorite. It's a Middle Eastern dish made with sauteed onions and peppers, nice bit of paprika and cumin. It's delicious as a brunch dish, but also works really well as a lunch or a dinner with some toasted bread, a little green salad on the side, and some chili flakes on top. Let me show you how to do it. First of all, we're going to fry some red onions. These are actually 2 chopped red onions. They're going into our medium hot pan with some olive oil and a bit of salt. I'm going to add some salt flakes, but use whatever salt you have handy. It's good to remember that not all salt is equal. The super refined salt that you can buy that has some iodine added to it to make sure it doesn't clump, it's also actually been refined quite a lot, and even though salt is still salt in terms of nitrates, there is a difference in terms of the mineral content. So if you can find rock salt or sea salt, those are probably your best options. Let's give that a stir. And while the onions are frying, I'll remind you how to chop peppers. Right, now I've already done some of the peppers, but let me show you again what the easiest way is to get your pepper into a shape that makes it a little bit easier to chop. You're going to use your claw, tuck in your fingertips, and then just cut off the top and the bottom. Then choose any of the sides. You're going to just slit it along, open it up, and then take your knife and run along the inside. That was really easy. And just cut off any bits of the membrane that attach the seeds to the inside. And that leaves you with a really easy rectangular sort of piece of pepper. Now I'm going to just to make it a little bit easier to chop, I'm going to divide it. Now, as you can see, I'm cutting on the inside of the pepper because the outside has that really tough, invisible skin that might make your knife slip off. And I'm just going to do relatively large cubes like that and add that to our ready prepared ones. Again, I'm just going to tuck in my fingertips and do cubes that way. Now, normally, peppers, you can use any color peppers for this. I prefer the red ones, just because we're going to add tomato and it looks quite pretty if it's all in red. We're going to just check on the onions so that they're nice and soft before we add the peppers. We're also going to add about 3 chopped garlic cloves. Right, I think the garlic can go in. You'll notice that most savory recipes start with chopped onions and chopped garlic, and there's a very good reason for this. They fall into the allium family, and the allium family has a lot of flavor and enhances the flavor of many other ingredients. They're also really important for your health. They fight off disease. They're full of vitamin C if you eat them raw, so add some raw chopped onions or garlic to your salad dressing or your salads, for example. My granny used to swear by eating a whole raw garlic clove for breakfast. I'm not suggesting you go that far, but she certainly wasn't ill very often in her life. Right, I think we can add the peppers now. And they need to soften down a little bit first. They have to cook a few minutes before we add the chopped tin tomatoes. So that's been about 5 minutes. I've been constantly stirring. If you feel like the peppers aren't quite soft yet, but your veggies are browning a bit, just add a tiny bit of water just to help it along. Maybe even cover it just for a couple of minutes. I feel like my peppers are nice and soft. If they're not soft at this point and you add the chopped tomatoes too soon, they won't really soften that much after that. And so your resultant dish it'll still be delicious, but it won't be as creamy and soft as it could be. Right, I'm going to add my chopped tomatoes, 2 tins. And then also some ground cumin and paprika. going to add another little bit of salt as the tomato needs it. And then if you've ever cooked with tomato paste or chopped tomatoes, you'll know that it can be quite acidic. To prevent it from tasting too sour, we're just going to add a tiny bit of aged balsamic vinegar. I don't think this is the traditional Turkish way, but I have found that it is really delicious. Just a little bit, maybe like a half a tablespoon. Stir all of that in, give it a good mix, and if you want to, at this point, you can add some chili flakes. I'm also going to give it just a few grindings of black pepper. Right, now the fun bit. We're going to make little holes or little cavities for our eggs to be cracked into. Once I've given it all a good stir. Now obviously, because the sauce is saucy, it will try to close up again, so just give yourself enough space. I'm going to do 4 eggs initially, and then if you wanted more eggs, you can either add them next to or maybe as fried eggs on top, but that's going in the first little hole. It's not actually a shell. Great, now we're going to make our next little cavity over there. It's very important that you use a saucepan or a dish that you have a lid for this one, as the egg will need to cook from above and below. There's my third one going in. Right, and bring your sauce to a nice simmer before you put the lid on. And then it needs about 5 minutes, but we're going to give it a check just after 5 minutes because we don't want the egg to be overcooked and hard boiled. We want nice soft centers. We put the lid on and then we're going to give that 5 minutes. Right, that's been about 5 minutes. They're almost cooked. At this point, I'm going to add some crumbled feta. This is totally optional. It does add a delicious dimension, and I love the fact that it is creamy and salty, and it melts a little bit, but not entirely like mozzarella would. So a very good addition to this dish. While we're waiting for the eggs to finish cooking in probably another minute or two, I'm going to also chop some coriander, fresh coriander, which we'll add when we serve this. There you go, that looks great. Right, now with chopping herbs, parsley stalks are a little bit harder, and so I usually get rid of those and just chop the leaves. With coriander, the stalks are really nice and soft and fragrant, so I actually just get rid of the bottommost bit and then I just chop up everything else. You're going to use your claw again, and then you're going to start doing your rocking motion. If your knife is nice and sharp, you'll definitely end up with finely chopped coriander. Every now and then, just bring your leaves together again into a tight bunch, which will make your chopping more efficient. There you go, I'm just going to do the last bit, and then you can have another run through just with your hand on top, just to make sure everything is nicely chopped. There you go. I think that's good enough for now. Let's check on our eggs. Look at that, delicious, beautifully cooked, soft egg yolks, and we're just going to add some nice chopped coriander on top. And that's ready to serve.